Hey everybody, it's so great to be here at the GlobantConverge conference and share the stage with you, James. Thank you so much for having me. Hi, I'm Pascal Finette, the co-founder of Be Radical, and in the next 10 minutes, I will take you on a trip into the future. And we're really excited about it. Now, here's the interesting thing. If you're feeling a little bit like my feline friend over here, so you're getting ready to jump, you're taking in all the information you have learned, everything you know, everything you're reading today, everything you're learning today, and you're getting ready to jump just one more bit of information and, if you're feeling a bit like that, fret not. That is my normal state, particularly in this new crazy time. But here's the most important thing I can tell you about the world. Tomorrow will look dramatically different than today. And I used to say this for years and years now, and people kind of like smiled about this, but now I do think we're all feeling it very acutely. There's these three time horizons, the now, next, and beyond. Our friends from EYQ over at EY, the think tank there, have framed this in this beautiful language. Now here's what's happening right now. The now and the next collapse into a single point in time. There is no two time horizons anymore. And the beyond, which used to be beyond 5 or 10 years, is now the world beyond COVID-19. That opens up really interesting opportunities because technology moves on an exponential curve. We know this. Computing is a good example for that. Adoption is typically lagging behind. And now we're seeing something we call the C19 bump, this massive explosion in adoption. The sheer fact that you don't see me in person, but watch this as a video is a good example for that. The New York Times used the words BC and AC, and of course, BC is the time before COVID-19, AC is the world after COVID-19. Here's where I get excited about. There's things which will be gone, which we do in a world before COVID, which are not real anymore in this new world. And there will be new behaviors. Think about, for example, wearing a face mask. But there also will be behaviors which are changed. And the interesting question, and this is where the opportunities lie for me, is what are the things which are going to change? What are the things which are new? What are the things which are gone? And what is the residue of those as they're moving from BC to AC? And I want to give you a framework to understand this much better. We start out with this one here. What you see here is a good example of why we are really ill-equipped to see the thing I'm going to talk about in a minute. What you see here is mobile phone or digital media usage. The red bars is mobile phones, blue is PC, laptops, white is other internet-connected devices, 2008, 2018. Now here's the interesting insight. Of course, this is exponential growth, as we all know. But more importantly, imagine I would have shown you that slide in the year 2008, and all you could see is the data for 2008. Now, who truthfully would have said, looking at the data, I believe the world is going to change? Most of us wouldn't. And I've done this exercise many times. And ask yourself this simple question. When in this timeline would you have thought the world is going to change? Mobile is taking over. And the median answer we get from all around the world is the single one all the time, 2012. Now, here's the interesting thing. When you look at when some of the most interesting companies were born, which leverage mobile at their core, Airbnb 2008, Uber 2009, WhatsApp 2009, Instagram 2010, and the list goes on and on and on. The important bit is this. We would have missed these companies not by 3 months, we would have missed them by 3 years. We need to get really good at reading what we call weak signals. And we are living in a world which is abundant in weak signals, which shows us where the future is going. Classic examples, compute. Computers are becoming so powerful that by 2029, you will buy a $1,000 compute device which has the raw compute power of a human brain. And we do know that computers are doubling in their capacity every 2 years, meaning 2 years later, 2031, you've got 2 human brains, and then 4, 8, 16, and so on. And by 2050, 2060, you've got all of humanity's combined brain power in a single $1,000 compute device. Tomorrow will look dramatically different than today. AI and algorithms, we see this truly exponential growth, of course. But when you look at the data, it's crazy. AI in the last 7 years has become 300,000 times as powerful, and it's currently doubling every 270 days. Energy. All it takes to power the world's energy consumption using a solar panel, and of course this is a theoretical assumption because you would need to transport that energy, is what you see here is a big square. We're living in a world which is abundant in energy, yet we're still fighting wars over fossil fuels, which is crazy. Genetic engineering, same thing. The cost of sequencing a human genome has come down from 2-something billion US dollars and 7 years of effort as part of the Human Genome Project in 1999 to less than $1,000, and it's expected to drop by another order of magnitude in the next 5 years, and then it will just go down and down and down. And just think about what the opportunities are. All weak signals, some of them stronger than others, which point towards a very different future. But here's where we get really excited. This is why I think COVID points towards something much bigger, because we now see a lot of new or emerging weak signals. A good example is remote work. Clearly, remote work is with us for a long time, yet most companies don't do it. Now, remote work is here. Most of us are working remotely. Nearly 100% of at least office workers are remote these days. And the question becomes, what are the implications of the implications? Because when you look at weak signals, that is the thing you really need to look at. Because the opportunities, the white spaces, the blue oceans, the green meadows, they're at the further outer edges of those trends. Here's a good example. Remote work. Remote work clearly has direct implications on your people, on your clients, and your resources. Those are what we call the first order implications. Everybody can understand those. But now you're going to ask yourself, what are the implications of that? So for example, the implications on your people is there's some shift in your hiring, without a doubt. That leads to an increase in your remote locations, that leads to an increase in your talent pool. So suddenly you can become much more competitive than you were ever before. There's another thing which is interesting. If you hire remotely, particularly in more rural areas or areas which are economically not quite as developed, your retention actually goes up. So massive opportunities for the companies which not just see remote work as a thing we need to get through, but see remote work as a real opportunity. Here's another example. Your clients, of course, your in-person meetings are going down. We're all having meetings on Zoom and WebEx and God knows what. Your video meetings are going up for sure, but here's a fascinating thing. Your business attire might go down because now suddenly in a video environment, we all feel a little bit more comfortable to be who we are instead of showing up in a suit or a nice dress. What does that mean now? Well, if you're in the business of being a tailor, bad luck. But also your client relationship might go up because now your client doesn't see you as a fully dressed, well-dressed person in a suit or in a dress, but they now see you as a real human being wearing the t-shirt from your alma mater. Last one here, resources. Of course, office space will go down, cost will go down. That is inevitable. Now you can ask yourself, what does it actually mean if office spaces go down, for example, in our cities, which will get probably revitalized and become more livable again. But also home office use will go up without a question. So now we're already seeing in the market for residential real estate, people buying bigger houses because they now need a home office. There's interesting questions around what do you do with your benefits? So now suddenly companies might think about, do I give you a stipend towards your home office? Here's a really fascinating one. Your IT infrastructure use will go up. Of course, most of that stuff goes into the cloud. We're now using many, many more tools because we're remote. That gives you a little bit more of a cybersecurity risk without a question, because now you've got much more surface area, attack surface area. Cybercrime will go up because there's an attack surface area. And here's the interesting implication of that implication. If cybercrime goes up, I expect that cryptocurrencies will also go up because cybercriminals love to conduct business in cryptocurrencies. So now might be a good time to buy a few Bitcoins to hedge against this new world. When you do this and you do it extensively, it looks like this. We call this a disruption map. And if you're interested, you can go to our website. We have a free online course which teaches you this in detail. Now, the important thing about this is change happens at the implications of the implications, at the third, fourth, and fifth order magnitude of changes out there. And you have to do this. Now, here's the question around what is the residue of all these changes? Again, lots of weak signals will never turn into something, but many, many do. Remote work has an interesting weak signal residue part to it. The median daily commute in San Francisco is about an hour. Now, we're working remote, so suddenly you've got 5 more hours in the day which you don't spend sitting in a car. So now the question for me becomes, what is the residue of this? How many people do want to go back to that, namely sitting in a car for 5 hours? And we already see the data. This is data from a recruitment firm which asked office workers across the United States, and 50% of them said that they want to continue working remotely. So as you're looking at other weak signals we're seeing now in this COVID world, say, for example, food delivery, a thing we seem to be all doing now, contactless payment, contactless anything, the changes in travel, we see it everywhere. So my encouragement for you is start mapping those weak signals, become curious about them, spend time with your teams, your family to figure out what does this weak signal look like and what are the implications of the implications? Because here's the thing. All these weak signals, when they turn into something, it happens gradually and then suddenly. And the companies which see the gradually, they are the ones who will win. Now, we're living in truly extraordinary times. Of course, there's COVID, and I don't want to belittle just 1 second the implications of COVID on humanity, on our families, our societies, both from an economic as well as from a health perspective. But I want to remind you that we do live in the most amazing times ever, because for the first time in human history, people, communities, small groups of people have the same innovation power as large corporations and even governments. So it is in our hands to create that future. If you want to be in touch, the simplest way to be in touch with us is if you send an email to this email address, just an empty email. It's a bot. It will reply to you with my personal contact details. We're sharing all our research on a public mailing list. We'll add you to that list. Thank you so much for having me. Create the future and build what matters.